Welcome to the Doktor O'Kay Show. I am Doktor O'Kay and this is WWE Raw from Cincinnati, Ohio, where our main headline is, just keep thinking that was our WrestleMania match. But we'll get to that in a minute, so we'll start with our matches as always and just keep sacrificing someone else as Kaiser pushes Penta out of the ring after Penta sacrifices Pete Dunne, so Kaiser hits that reverse STO DDT and scores a rare win. So Kaiser is the ones, and he didn't really have any highlights, but he took the opening when he saw it, so he stops a 5-match losing streak and gets his second win in 14 matches, so he's 1-3 in singles matches. That means Penta is the twos, and he showed out yet again with an inverted Rana, a back-to-back tope con elo, and then a Mexican destroyer. But he was slightly off when he was attempting that Penta driver, so Kaiser got there first, and he drops to 0-2 in multi-person singles matches, but is still 4-2 overall. So Pete Dunne is the threes, and he reversed out of a reverse STO DDT with some joint manipulation to Kaiser's hand, and he was the one that landed a bitter end on Penta before Kaiser broke that pin up. So he's lost 4 straight now and is 0-3 in singles in 2025. Well, this is how you start a show with a lot of great action, so we will have to give it a double okay. Up next, we just keep being a Midnight Gardener as Kofi Kingston rakes Cruz del Toro's eyes while the ref is distracted, leading straight to the midnight hour. So the New Day are their ones, and they had a surprising struggle with the LWO, but at least they found a way to take advantage of a distraction, and they go to 2-0 in traditional tags. But that means the LWO is the twos, and this was unbelievably their first traditional tag in 11.5 months. Yeah, that's pretty bad. They had a couple impressive moves in reserve apparently with back-to-back DDTs by Wild, and they had a flip in stereo to the floor on both New Day members, but they still have not won on the main roster since January 20th, 2023. So yeah, they're 0-1 in traditional tags. But the New Day then attacked the LWO after the bell for reasons? But that caused Dragon Lee to run out, and he got the better of them for a moment, but in the end he was outnumbered 2-1 and suffered a double powerbomb to leave all 3 members of the LWO lying, and Woods and Kingston will both pick up fines for the post-match attack. And this had the makings of a good match, just not enough of it, so it gets a not okay. Up third, we just keep sleeping on Tozawa as Gunther decided a powerbomb wasn't good enough to end the match, so he picked up Tozawa and put him to sleep. Instead, so Gunther is the ones, and he called Tozawa a goof for doing a TikTok dance with the Alpha Academy, so he thunderously chopped Tozawa several times before ultimately deciding on his own when this match should be over, so he goes to 2-0 in one-on-one matches. But that means Tozawa is the twos, and he did come out strong out of the gate before having the snot kicked out of him with a big boot, and he did go for his diving senton a little bit too quickly, so Gunther caught him out of the air and right into a Boston Crab, so Tozawa goes to 0-2 in one-on-one matches. Gunther then decided to send an extra message by putting Tozawa in a second sleeper after the match until Otis came in to stop him, but Gunther briefly left the ring before turning right back around and putting a sleeper on Otis, which caused Jey Uso to run out of the back for the save, and Gunther decided to leave without any further physical contact. But we will have to give Gunther a fine for this action, but at least Tozawa got in a little bit of offense in this one. However, it still gets a double not okay. Next, we just keep making this title matter as Lyra, Valkyria, and Dakota Kai both put on great efforts, with Lyra sliding off of the top rope and into a Nightwing to retain the title. So Lyra is the ones, and she had a painful superplex that really hurt both of them, and that got a non-PG response from the crowd, and then she later had a powerbomb into a near fall, so she ends up outlasting Dakota for the second time this year and her first title defense, so she's 2-1 in one-on-one matches, and that means Dakota is the 2s, and she almost had this after a super kick, Dakota kick, and chiropractor trifecta, but still she comes up short and is 1-2 in one-on-one matches. Then after the match, Ivy blindsided Dakota while she was going up the ramp, and then did the same to Lyra inside the ring as she was celebrating her victory, and Ivy held up the title, and so she'll have to get a fine for those attacks. But this was another strong match by both women, proving that this women IC title does matter already, so it has to get an okay. Next, we just keep getting back to shenanigans as Finn Balor and Carlito interfere for Dominik Mysterio several times, including grabbing Breaker's feet right before a spear to force the DQ. So that means Braun Breaker is the ones, and he had to deal with 3 Judgment Day members in this one, but he still did fine, leading to a Breakensteiner, and surely that would have led to the spear, but he didn't get the chance, so instead he gets a DQ win and is 2-0 in one-on-one matches. But that means Dom is the 2s, and he only seemed to get in any offense when Balor and Carlito interfered for him, but he did at least get a 619 along the way. But he probably is happy just to have not taken a spear this week, so it's his second loss in 2 weeks and 4th straight one-on-one loss as he goes to 0-2 in 2025. But because their last distraction forced a DQ, Balor and Carlito will get 1 week suspensions for this, and then all 3 men tried to take out Breaker after the match, so Balor went to grab a chair, but Breaker was able to defeat a double team, eventually hitting a spear on Carlito, and then staring down Balor to prevent him from using that chair, and Dom will also get a fine for joining in, but the spear on Carlito was nice, but a spear on Dom would have been nicer, so this gets a double not okay. And in our main headline and main event, we just keep thinking this was our WrestleMania match, because after so many near falls, we had Naomi boot Dom into the ring accidentally that created rather than prevented a distraction, so Raquel grabbed Naomi's foot to stop a split-legged moonsault on Liv, so Raquel slammed Naomi's head into the post, and Liv got the easy cover, so they become the first ever 3-time Women's Tag Team Champions. And Liv and Raquel are the ones, and they had so many highlights in this one, including an assisted codebreaker on Bianca, but it was Dom who saved them several times with his distractions, and one of which led to Raquel breaking up a double KOD, which eventually led to a Tahana Bomb and Oblivion combo finisher on Naomi. However, that too was broken up by Bianca. Dom then put Liv's foot onto the bottom rope after a double KOD, but that led to Bianca going after Dom, so Raquel intercepted and threw Bianca onto the announce table. But in the end, it was a simple post to the dome to take out Naomi, so they get their second win against those 2 in 2 tries and are 2-1 in traditional tags, but more importantly, they are your new tag team champions. But that means Bianca and Naomi are the 2s, and they came out aggressively, and they attacked before the bell because they still think that it was Liv and Raquel who attacked Jade, so those 2 do have to pick up fines for that. But they both had plenty of highlights, and for Naomi we saw a springboard X Factor, a blockbuster, and her head scissors driver, and for Bianca we saw a 450 splash, a spear, and a KOD, but all of that was not enough, with Dom proving to be the actual X Factor, so Dom does get a 1 week suspension for all of that. So in the end, Bianca ends up with 6 successful title defenses, and Naomi has just 1, which is the match where she earned the title, and these 2 go to just 1 and 2 in traditional tags this year. Even with Dom's interference, it is hard to imagine a better possible women's tag team match at any point than what we got here, so it would have been completely appropriate to see this match at WrestleMania instead on just of a random Monday Night Raw. So, of course, this gets a double okay. So with that, let's go beyond the map for Raw, and Logan Paul opened the show in his home state, but CM Punk quickly interrupted, calling Paul a dime a dozen, but Paul said that soon they'll be chanting his name. However, Punk then called Paul a nobody, so Paul slapped Punk and left the ring. So Logan will have to get a fine, but this was a disappointing opening statement between two Elimination Chamber combatants, so it gets a not okay. Jackie Redmond interviewed Rhea Ripley, and Rhea admitted that she's never beaten Io Sky, but it has been 5 years since they last fought, and Rhea said that she's become the most dominant woman in the WWE in that time, so she'll add Io to her list. But Io briefly interrupted, and she pretty much just said that she'll win next week and go to WrestleMania as the champion, so that was also pretty disappointed and gets a not okay. The Judgment Day's night ended well, but earlier in the clubhouse they were complaining about losing last week with Balor again, repeating that there would be no new members. Well, I guess that's the end of that story, right? Anyways, Balor accused Liv and Raquel of attacking Jade, but Liv said that they weren't involved, so at least that's a little nugget there of what possibly could be the truth, so we'll give it an okay. Before his match against Tozawa, Gunther said that he's warming up to fighting Jay so that he can embarrass him on the biggest stage of them all, and for ending all of that yeeting for good. But afterwards, Jay checked on Tozawa and he ran into A-Town Down Under with Waller, saying that Jay is not on Gunther's level. But Jay said that everyone is doubting him, but ended up yeeting in the end. So Theory actually started to yeet as well, but he stopped mid-yeet. So Waller argued with Theory, so maybe those two perhaps aren't on the same page after losing to Obafemi. Nonetheless, this gave Jay the opportunity to super kick Waller in the mouth, so Jay will get a 1-week suspension. But as always, there's simply too much eating, so not okay. I don't really even want to mention it, but patostrating Michael Cole's buttons during his Impulsive interview is just gross, so that gets a double not okay. In a pre-tape segment, Jackie Redmond interviewed Sami Zayn, and he said that he went to KO's house, but later felt ashamed of himself because family has never been involved anytime they've had a feud, but he said it is different this time because he doesn't know what either are capable of and what their headspaces are. Regardless, it's going to be a bad time, and I had a bad time with this interview, one of Sammy's worst, so it gets a not okay. Kathy Kelly interviewed Ivy Nile, and she repeated that they all are going for titles while Gable is away, but then the War Raiders inexplicably attack the Creeds from behind, so they get 1-week suspensions, and I just don't understand this and why they couldn't wait for next week's title match, so this too gets a double not okay. And lastly, Cody Rhodes tried to explain his headspace on The Rock's offer, saying that the decision is not just about him, but also about his entire family and his friends and even the memory of his father. And he tried to explain that the offer is for everything that he'd fight to get, but he can have it without fighting. So Seth Rollins came out and stopped him there, asking Rhodes what he's thinking, because Rollins doesn't want to have to regret everything that he sacrificed to help Rhodes win that title. But Rhodes said that Rollins' soul may already be compromised from his former actions, but then also said that Rollins was the MVP of WrestleMania-Worthy, which got the crowd to chant MVP. But Rollins said that he's here to protect Rhodes from him making the same bad mistakes that he's made in the past, and after he wins the chamber, he wants to face the Rhodes that beat him several times a few years ago, not a shell of a man without a soul. We certainly do not love Cody Rhodes showing up on Raw now that the transfer window is closed, but anytime someone can bring up beating Roman Reigns, it is indeed a good night. So this was a pretty good exchange, so it gets an okay. And it is great to see Raw actually have 6 matches and some real bangers as we go into the Elimination Chamber. But if you missed the recap and the grades from SmackDown where we talked about The Rock coming back to get Rhodes' soul, be sure to go right on over here and check that out. Because if you do, just like having some pretty great wrestling on an actual wrestling show, for a change, it gets an okay.